What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode here, the Side Guys Football Forum. I'm one of your co-hosts on the side, joined as always by my good friend, my good buddy, the other half of this, guys, we're Tad the Side, and Tad, officially upon it. As of recording, we are here at draft week, less than 4 days away until we have round one, 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 o'clock Eastern time, happening in Green Bay this year. So we're going to have some fun as far as, history there at Lambeau Field and all that. So it should be fun times. We're getting a lot more rumors circulating around this time. There's a lot of people locking in Travis Hunter to the Browns at number 2. There's talk about the Steelers possibly being very interested in Shedeur Sanders. So there are people talking about if they make a monumental lead to trade up into the top 10 to select him, or if he slides down outside the top 10, they may select him, move up to that point. So just like, with all the rumors that are circulating now, Tad, how much do you buy into it? And just like we've talked about this before, it's just like, how much is it just like, people are just waiting for the draft so to try to build these storylines. It's like, oh, this may happen. Well, this may happen. It's like, so what do you it's at this time?
Those are the perfect two examples to use, because the Browns one I can totally buy. Right?
Yes,
that's
I agree with that. I agree.
The Steelers one,
yeah,
I believe they're interested. I don't believe they're so interested that they're going to sell the farm to get into the top 10. It's a lot like, and I bring this up all the time, of a week about this time before the draft with Andrew Luck, where people were like, oh, the Colts could take RG3. Like, I never believed that for a second. It was just like, first take was just like, shit, we're 4 days away. We need something to talk about. And so that's the key to looking at this. And plus, and this is true for any sports rumor ever, not just draft stuff. Who does the league benefit? So I think that the report that, oh, Steelers may trade up for Shedeur. Well, look at that. All of a sudden Shedeur is guaranteed to go top 5. So chances are it's Shedeur's camp leaking that. So by the way, Shedeur Sanders, number 2, retired for 2 years of mediocrity. Salute.
Jeez, yeah, that I just find so ridiculous that him and Travis Hunter have got their jerseys.
At least Hunter, I can understand, right? He's a Heisman winner. I know he's a Heisman winner, but still he's a Heisman winner. So okay, I kind of get that, but yeah, Shedeur is ridiculous.
Have they retired Rashawn Salam's number?
No, I don't think they've ever retired.
That's why it's even more ridiculous.
2 years of
oh my god!
I think it's 2-9 in the Big 12. Thank you, sir.
My lord. But hey, I guess that's what Dion and that whole sort of media circus brings to that school. They sort of had to reward it in some way, and this is, I guess, what they do. So whatever it is, just it's very shocking when I heard that news. I was like, this has to be a joke. It has to be like one of those, the ball sack, Twitter reports or whatever. It's like, this has to be a joke, right? And it's like, no, there it is on the stadium.
I didn't really have an opinion until I saw the picture in the stadium, and I was like, yeah, this is ridiculous.
Lord, but
Sabres 2023 through 2024 is just like, oh my god,
amazing the time that we're in right now. But yeah, as mentioned, we're officially at draft week, so we're so much closer to hearing all those names called on night 1, and then obviously in night 2 and night 3. But Tad, obviously we want to get some last minute discussion here as far as some talk about what can happen on draft night as far as the whole weekend is concerned as well. Just, what sort of teams may sort of play themselves as far as possibly being players, as far as moving around during drafts or whatever. Who needs to win the draft? That's a very important question as well. And then, of course, we'll close out the episode with bold predictions for this year's draft as well, Tad. So let's kick things off, though, with that first one there. Who needs to win the draft? We always sort of come to this, we just definitely discussed this during the offseason as far as who needs to win free agency, as far as signing good players to sort of bolster their roster to get into a good spot. That when they come to the draft, they only need to fill certain holes here, but just which of those teams that's it's very critical that they sort of nail the picks that they have, or they need to make some moves during the draft to sort of like, really just get their roster in a good place to either compete for a Super Bowl or get at least one step closer to competing for a Super Bowl. Because obviously there's not all 32 teams are ready to compete for a Super Bowl now, but there are some teams out there that can make themselves get a step closer to at least be in this discussion as far as being a playoff team. And then obviously you take that next step there. So who's a team do you identify that needs to win the draft?
This team is like someone on a sinking ship. It's like you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna go for it. It's Jack on the Titanic.
Okay.
It's like he's trying to stay afloat and like climb on the door, and it's like, oh, you poor bastard, you're just gonna freeze to death, aren't you?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. And there was room on the door, damn it. But anyway, point being is, I think the Steelers are in desperate need to win this draft.
Okay, we're just talking about the Steelers. Okay,
so and when you're the subject of ridiculous trade rumors, that's never a good thing. And there's a reason for that, because they still don't have their quarterback situation figured out. I guess they lost Najee Harris. Lost, quote unquote. But regardless, I know people are gonna be like, "Hey, we signed Kenneth Gainwell, not a number one back." They they have massive needs at defensive tackle, massive needs at cornerback, and honestly, they could use another pass rusher because TJ Watt is basically Frankenstein's monster out there playing with like sewed up body parts.
He's all they got right now.
Exactly.
So yeah, they definitely could use some help for him.
They have these massive needs all over the place. And normally that's a sign of, a rebuild. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with a rebuild. Except for that DK Metcalf trade shows me they're not interested in a rebuild.
Yeah.
So okay, if you don't want to rebuild, then you better win this year's draft, which means you got to hit on most, if not all of your picks. And you do not have the luxury of like, oh yeah, we already have a, tight end. Let's draft another one. You don't have that luxury. You have got to draft for need, and you need to draft for need well. Otherwise, Mike Tomlin's, winning streak, I guess.
Yeah.
Winning record streak. There we go.
Yeah.
That's over. And I think that unless they do really I'm talking like Eagles level well in this year's draft, I think the Steelers are in very, very real trouble because that division is getting better and better. And like I said, they're just treading water. They're just like sitting there waiting for the Corinthia or whatever it's called to come, and not sure if it's going to come. So I think the Steelers absolutely have to win this draft.
If I were to ask you right now, Ted, who is the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Do you think you can name him?
I want to say, did Mason Rudolph re-sign with them?
He did. So that is your current starter with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now let's one up you. Do you think he can name his backup right now?
Oh, good God.
I'll save the embarrassment. Is Skylar Thompson. Skylar Thompson is his current backup. Sign him away. Yeah, Skylar Thompson is current backup. But you also have to know that's they're still technically awaiting to see what happens with Aaron Rodgers. So it's that is definitely a card that's in play as far as being the starter for the quarterback.
I don't think they're going to go quarterback round one.
Yeah, so it's just it's very interesting to see because, you look at their roster overall, Ted, it's they got a lot of good pieces on offense as well as defense. So they could, compete and, make a good run in the playoffs as well. But just, that quarterback is just such an important position and they don't have it nailed down. Mason Rudolph has obviously been on the team before. He's played pretty well for them. So just you just wonder whether that's the direction they want to go in. So it's focus on the run. But like you said, they only signed Kenneth Gainwell and they have Jalen Ward. So it's is that a running game that you want to lean on? They traded for DK Metcalf. So it's just you don't know what direction they're going in. So just it's really going to cement what are they doing with this draft weekend as far as are they going full in as far as yes, we are ready to compete now. We're ready to go in that direction. Or is it still they're going to be continuing to tread water? We're just yeah, they're competitive, but they're also not the greatest team. It's just to, like you said, just continue that streak of above 500 win seasons for Mike Tomlin. That seems to be their current goal right now. I don't see anything else until we get more of a clear answer after draft weekend. So yeah, I 100% agree with the Steelers are one of those teams where it's just this draft weekend is going to tell us a lot about how we need to feel about the Steelers team in 2025.
I feel like the Steelers are that boy or girl who, breaks up with their significant other. And that being Russell Wilson, being I can do better than you. And then after 2 or 3 weeks, and then the significant other, Russell Wilson, finds another person, the Giants. And then all of a sudden the Steelers are oh, wait, no, come back. No. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything. Because now they're just oh, shit. We knew Justin Fields was going to leave, but We didn't think Russ was going to leave. I think that threw a real wrench in their plans.
Yeah. No, it's exactly like the teen high school dramas that you see where it's like you got that love triangle and then she picks somebody because they had Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. So it's like, who are you going to pick? Who are you going to pick? They clearly chose Russell Wilson and they let Justin Fields walk. And then it's like, no, Russell Wilson left too. It's like, oh, why were you making this such a tough decision? I decided to move on too. It's like, now you're left with nothing. And that's exactly what the Steelers are dealing with right now. So yeah, you wonder who's going to come and be the savior for that team. But just, yeah, it's a very important position. Unfortunately, they just haven't locked it down since the likes of Ben Roethlisberger. And that has been a long time now that he's not been playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
By the way, George Pickens is Gossip Girl.
I can very much see that. Tad, I hate to play the Homer card here, but it's like this is a very important draft for the San Francisco 49ers because it's like
you look at I'm actually not going to get on you for that.
Because you look at the offseason, it's just they clearly are going in a direction that's like, okay, we need to pay Brock Purdy, but we also are not in the business of overpaying a bunch of our stars, because we've been performing well. Clearly, when they don't perform well, they're decimated by injuries and they're just nowhere near where they should be as far as, where that Super Bowl window is open, right? So it's like they clearly let lots of their high-priced free agents walk. Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga, they trade away Deebo Samuel, Charvarius Ward, now member of your Indianapolis Colts, Aaron Banks, offensive lineman, Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason was traded to the Minnesota Vikings. So it's like they let a lot of their key pieces go. And so it's like, now what do they have? They're clearly going in that direction of like, we need to be a lot more we need to be a little bit more conscientious about where we spend our money. Clearly, like I said, that Brock Purdy contract is still looming for them. They need to figure all that stuff out too. But you also look at the fact that they have the most draft capital tied with the Baltimore Ravens with 11 picks in this year's draft. So that gives them a lot of flexibility to either make all 11 picks or they can maneuver around in the draft wherever they want as far as trading up, trading down, accumulating picks for the future if they're going in this cost-cutting mode for the next couple seasons, whatever it is. But it's still very important for them to nail this draft because, Tad, on paper, they have the most easiest schedule this coming season as far as, against the opponents that they're playing this year. So it's like, yeah, they have a very good schedule for them to play into their favors as far as they have a pretty good roster. They were just in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. So it's like, as long as everybody stays healthy and they can sort of shore up some of the holes that they have, build some good depth with this year's draft, they can still very much stay in contention to possibly compete for a Super Bowl. But yeah, if they don't nail this draft, I think the bigger concern here, Tad, too, is that we haven't really heard much rumblings about Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch being on the hot seat. It's because they've had a good string of, success where it's like they've made consistently the conference championship game. Then obviously they've been to the Super Bowl twice in the last 5 years. So it's like they've gotten there. They just haven't won one, but it's like you still had that level of success. Whereas like now, if you follow it up with back-to-back seasons, now after the offseason that you had, where it's like you're saving a lot of money, let a lot of these guys go that were key producers for you. It's like now if you can't reap on that decision that you made, we may start to see a lot of those, not a lot of those, but just those two seats in particular, Shanahan's and John Lynch's seats, get under fire as far as like, okay, you had a lot of leeway before because you're winning, but it's like now with some of the moves that you made, you haven't been winning. And so it's like now we need to possibly look in a different direction potentially. And so, yeah, this is a very critical offseason as well as a draft now for sure with all the draft capital that they have and the holes that they have and the decisions that they're going to be more cost conscious. Yeah. So I think this is a very critical offseason and draft for the San Francisco 49ers.
Okay, so I have a lot of opinions on that, but first and foremost, did you say most easiest?
They had the easiest schedule this year, yes.
No, you said most easiest.
Yeah, most easiest. Yeah, I probably did say that, but just, yes. Clearly it's just the easiest schedule.
Most hardest?
Most hardest. No, not the most hardest. Not the most hardest.
Either way, it's wrong. Mm-hmm. So, no, I think this is a great pick. Like I said, yes, it is a homer pick, but it's a good, I guess. Homer pick. Logical Homer pick. There we go.
Yeah.
Especially because, was that our last episode we did the 49ers Colts mock draft?
I think it might have been. Yeah, I think it was last episode. Yeah.
So our last episode, I had the 49ers to mock draft the first 3 rounds for. And yeah, it was tough because I was like, they could go 1,000 different directions with every one of these picks. And and that's the thing. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but this is from an outsider's perspective. I feel like you guys are very hot and cold with drafts. Like, yes, like Ricky Pearsall, great selection. Dominic, I almost said Dominic Purcell, but I'm pretty sure he's an actor. Dominic what? Purnell?
Dominic Pooney.
Damn it, I knew it was a P. But like he was really good. But you look at other draft picks like Eric Armstead, who's good, not great. Trey Lance, Brock Purdy saved John Lynch's ass. So like I feel like you guys don't necessarily dominate the draft, which they also need to fix because speaking of treading water, it's not so much of treading water between a winning or losing team for the 49ers. It's treading water between a contender and just like, a really good team. Yeah. And that you guys are trying to keep that contending window open. And it just has that like, eerie feeling of like, oh shit, this is squeezing shut really fast. So yes, can you slow it down with this year's draft? You're going to need to. And plus, let's not forget, I feel like most people thought the Rams were going to start like kind of falling off. They haven't. The Cardinals are getting better. They're still not like a real threat, but they're getting better. Seahawks suck. I think you're safe from them. But the rest of that division is, either good or getting better. And so that presses even more need of like, we need to really hit on all our picks, especially because, and this is like the key year for like good contending teams. You had a shit year last year. So now you have a really good draft pick that you're probably not going to be that high for another couple of years. So you better make sure that whoever you take at 11, if you're still there, is going to, actually work out.
Yeah, I do agree with the hot and cold draft sort of situation because it's like consistently the biggest talk with the Niners is that they've had a bad record with first round picks. It's like, Ricky Pearsall is sort of like an outlier, but it's also only been 1 year for him. And it's like, you look at, Brandon Ayuk has been sort of like, up and down, had some good seasons, also been hurt a lot, but just like they've had that, obviously brought Trey Lance. So it's like first round, it's usually been not that great. They've sort of been able to save themselves with some of their late round picks. So it's like you got your George Kittles, obviously Brock Purdy, Dre Greenlaw was a 5th round pick. So it's like you get a lot of these guys that sort of end up being stars for their team, but they were late round picks that sort of like saved that sort of draft class for them in quote marks there. So yeah, they haven't been the most consistent with drafts, but they found a way to find producers and obviously compete. And like I said, be to a string of 4 out of 5 conference championship games, go to 2 out of 5 in 5-year Super Bowls, those sorts of things. So just like, but now all the moves that they decide to make or not make in the offseason, this draft just becomes that much more important as far as either nailing all 11 picks or using those 11 picks to move around to get the key producers to be, like you said, instant producers and instant starters for this team because they desperately need it. Because we saw it last year. They had a lot of great starters, but then everyone got hurt too. So they definitely need that depth as well to step in and be that next man up sort of mentality there. So San Francisco, Pittsburgh, I very much agree with both of those teams. It's like, very important draft for them here in 2025. Now, Dad, I talked about it here. The Niners have 11 picks, so they could definitely, move around and sort of adjust as far as what they want to do, trade up, trade down. But why don't you give me another team that you think is a very good contender to possibly trade up in the first round, or maybe like, use some of their draft capital to trade back into the first round. So they make a pick and then they make another pick later. I've already mentioned this before. Bless you. We've already made this pick. We already brought this up before, but as of right now, all 32 teams own their first round pick. So we'll have all 32 teams pick as of right now. But yeah, we definitely could see some teams possibly trade back up into the first round and make another pick in the first round, or maybe just some moving and wheelings and dealings over the course of day 2 and day 3 as well. But just, who do you identify as a team that may trade up or possibly trade down as well?
I got another sneeze coming, so just be ready for that.
Okay.
This is a team I'm more focused on day 1.
Okay.
Achoo!
Bless you.
What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know who the team is though.
Achoo.
Okay.
No, so I think it wouldn't shock me if they were moving around day 2 and 3, but this is specifically for what this team needs and just how I think this draft class is gonna or draft order, I guess, is gonna shake out. And this actually might shock some people because usually this team is pretty like, we're good. It's the Cincinnati Bengals, which is a fascinating team. for this reason is that, ownership, that the Brown family is infamous for exactly what I said, just being lackadaisical, being like, now we're okay. We don't want it, because that is their main income is the Bengals. So they never really wanted to spend money, but like somehow they've gotten stuck in it, like, fuck, we have to spend money. Like they just like they got backed into a corner, like we have to pay people. And it's hilarious. Like, fine, we'll contend, I guess. Which is hilarious. So you look, Joe Burrow got his bag, Jamar Chase got his bag, T. Higgins, hats off to you, dude. You got your bag, which I was really not expecting from the Bengals.
Nobody did. Nobody expected him to get his money in Cincinnati of all teams.
Well, shocking. So, okay, you've got most of your offense figured out. Here's the problem is that is most of your payroll right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Offense. So now you need to win the draft. I know I'm kind of borrowing from the last segment. You need to win the draft to get that cheap talent. Brock Purdy is an excellent example of this. Russell Wilson, his first couple of years in Seattle, excellent example of this. You get cheap talent, you can have the money to get talent in other positions. Now, here's maybe a hot take: is I actually think Trey Hendrickson is going to be a Bengal this next season.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't think he's going to be a Bengal after next season, but I do think he'll be a Bengal this upcoming season.
Got it.
However, like I said, I think that is a doomed relationship. He's going to be gone. You have got to fix, that problem. And let's not forget, even Trey Hendrickson, even if he was staying for the next 7 years, that defense is still a mess.
Yeah.
So,
a lot of issues still.
And you have a lot of good defensive players that are going to go in the top 10. I think someone of some repute, whether it be, James Pierce, I've actually seen falling down draft boards. Mason Graham is a great example. And in my last mock draft, I had him falling all the way to 10. If something like that happens, it would not shock me whatsoever if we see a top tier. Jalen Walker is a great example. Jalen Walker falls past Carolina, would not shock me whatsoever if Cincinnati moves up to get him, because they need pass rush, they need defensive help, and there are a lot of good defensive players in this year's draft, but a lot of them are going to go in the top 15, and Bengals are outside looking in of that top 15. So I think like I said, I think they hopefully are smart enough to recognize, we need one of these defensive players. All the good ones are going to be gone, especially because even let's go past 15, the Falcons at 16 are going to take a pass rusher in all likelihood. Well, actually, they're the Falcons, so who the fuck knows? But they should take a pass rusher. So Cincinnati has a lot of teams they need to jump ahead of if they want like a top tier marquee pass rusher or defensive player. So I really think they are like a sneaky team that not a lot of people are talking about moving up, that you really should watch out round one.
Yeah, whether they move up or whether they move down or whatever it is, just they need to make some moves in this draft to sort of, like you said, build up that defense again, because as of right now, it's like, you're investing pretty much all of your salary cap into those three players that you already listed earlier: Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase. So it's like, outside of that, though, it's like you still obviously need to anchor your offensive line some more. So then Joe Burrow doesn't get hurt again. You definitely could use maybe another more proven tight end. I know Mike Gesicki was good for you, but just like, I think you probably use a more playmaker at that position. You could definitely give Trey Hendrickson some more pass rush help if you decide to keep hang on to him for another year, right? Like you're sort of alluding to there. The secondary could definitely use some help. So just like overall, though, it's just like, they need a lot of help at other places. So they either need to nail every pick or they need to make some moves up and down to possibly get into position to get some key players to definitely really improve their roster. And like I said, nailing that cheap talent, because that's definitely going to be a big one for them.
Do you want to guess who's 4 and 5 on their payroll?
4 and 5 on their payroll?
Well, 1, 2, and 3 are obvious. So
yeah. Is Hendrickson 4 or 5?
Hendrickson is 4. What are you bitching about, dude?
Oh gosh, at 5, I want.
5, I completely forgot this guy was on the team.
5, I want to say. Is it Von Bell?
It's Orlando Bloom.
Orlando Bloom? Not Orlando Bloom, you idiot. Orlando.
I got you.
Oh my gosh.
Orlando Brown Jr.
Yeah, Orlando Brown Jr.
You actually bought that for a second?
As soon as you said it, I was like, that doesn't sound right. And then I was like, no, wait, it definitely isn't right.
Yes. No, you didn't see the Bengals player sliding down the stairs on the shield, shooting arrows?
Oh, gosh.
He wore number 11.
Oh dear Lord.
Cincinnati Bengals versus Captain Barbosa. Who wins?
Oh, Barbosa, hands down. Like, not even close.
He came back from the dead.
Exactly. Ted, I'm gonna name a team for you here that you may look at on a paper after I describe it to you as to why I think this team may move up or down, but I'm gonna back it up here. I'm gonna say the Minnesota Vikings. And
Ooh.
before I go into my reasoning, this is why some people may look at this and be like, I don't think they're gonna a team that's gonna move around. They only have 4 picks in this year's draft class. They only have 4 picks. So they have the fewest amount of draft picks as of right now heading into the 2025 draft. They pick at 24 overall in the first round, 97 overall in the third round, 139th overall in the 5th round, and then 187th overall in the 6th round. So not a lot of draft capital there. So it's like you wonder, it's like, why would they decide to move around? I'm looking at their roster on paper. They actually have a pretty good roster. The only question mark that they have is just whether JJ McCarthy can sort of live up to the same, precedent, surprisingly, left by Sam Darnold last year. It's like, can he replicate the type of season that he had? Or at least,
what a weird sentence.
It, like I said, it's sort of like I said. So, as I'm sort of saying it, I'm just like, this is such a weird sentence for me to say, but I have to say it because it's true. So it's just like, I'm wondering just whether that, and obviously all Vikings fans and the Vikings team is sort of wondering, it's just like, can JJ McCarthy live up to that same sort of, like I said, precedent that Sam Darnold left for them last season? So if he can, or at least come close to it, that this team is ready to compete again. Maybe not be at that same 14-3 level, but at least be in contention to possibly win the NFC North and possibly make a deep run in the playoffs as well. So, Brian Flores is still their defensive coordinator. They returned most of their defensive stars. The only one they lost was Cameron Bynum to your Indianapolis Colts. But outside of that, they poached your Colts as far as the offensive line is concerned.
We know for sure they don't need any goddamn offensive linemen.
So they were able to anchor their offensive line that way. They still have their big producer, Justin Jefferson.
Why, Ryan?
So it's like they have a lot of great pieces on paper. So it's like they don't need to make some significant additions. So that's why I can see them very much not staying at 24, but trading out of 24 with another team that wants to make another pick in the first round. Who that team will be, I mean, that's your guess as good as mine. It could be anywhere from, Cleveland making a second pick to draft their future quarterback of the, the franchise there. They could be, the Giants maybe make that move, whatever it is. Just there's a lot of teams that may jump up with Minnesota in particular at 24 to make a second pick. And then Minnesota will trade back to get more draft capital because Ted, I don't know if you feel the same way, but one of the biggest things that I was talking about on Chauncey's podcast, I mean, the appearance on his most recent episode there, and one of the big things that I was sort of echoing to him with all the analysis that I've been doing and some of the, scout tape that we're watching, just articles that we're reading, is just that, yes, there are blue chip prospects this year, but there's not a consistent number of them where it's like, if you're not picking in the top 10, I don't know if you need that first round pick. I feel like you can sort of get good talent in the second and third round to build up good depth and get a lot of potential there, where it's just like, you're sort of like taking more of a risk at, anywhere from 11 to that 32 range, where it's like, yeah, there's some good players there, but they're also like lots of, that's like, yeah, they're good, but this. It's like, oh, yeah, they're good, but they have these off the field issues. But it's like, there's so many other things with some of those other prospects projected to be first round talent that's just like, it makes me a little bit, I don't know if I want to invest a first round pick in this year's draft as assuredly as maybe in previous drafts outside of that top 10, like I mentioned. So that's where, a team like Minnesota, where it's like they just need to build up some depth. Maybe they get like a few spot starters here and there. That's where they can sort of benefit by getting more picks in this year's draft, or look to the future and build up some draft capital for future years. And they trade down and they accumulate a lot of picks. And so going for 4, they can end up ending like they can end up leaving the draft with like maybe 5 or 6 selections because they trade down and accumulate more picks there. So that's why I sort of reasoned them to be a mover and shaker when it comes to the draft as far as adjusting, because I feel like they have a pretty good roster on paper, and I think they could build up some good depth by building some more draft capital by making more selections on day 2 and day 3, as opposed to making just that one on day 1 and then using the rest of their capital to see what sort of works out for them there. So thoughts on that pick there?
Yeah, the Vikings are pretty much like Billy Zane in Titanic, right? I have a child. So you get off the Titanic, you're rich, and you get to live. Yeah. It's like everybody wins. But no, I really like what you said about, could the Browns trade up with them? This is a fascinating play. I'm going to be so interested to see what happens to him on day 1. Luther Burden, I am seeing falling like way, way far back compared to what he was originally slated to be.
Mhm.
So I could definitely see a wide receiver needy team. Please God, don't be the Jaguars trading up back into the first round to get a sliding Luther Burden. And you'll see it when our mock draft drops in a couple days. But most draft trades, I know like the ones like, oh, top 10 trades get all the hype and stuff. Those actually aren't that common. What's way more common, way like every year is trades in the 20s.
Mm-hmm.
If you actually go back and look in the 20s, most teams, especially in the 25 to 32 range, well, except for the 1 year where there were only 31 picks, damn it, Miami. Most teams, 25 to 32, do not pick in the original spot. Like the amount of moving around in that area is ridiculous. So yes, I could absolutely see Minnesota doing this. Now you have to be careful though, because while I do agree with you, really after like pick, I don't know, 20, there's probably like no difference between a second round pick and a first round pick, but there is like, and I can't, it's impossible to pinpoint, but it's one of those things like you just know when you see it. There is a certain point where there's a steep drop off in this year's draft of like, okay, good player, good player, good player, good player. Okay, now we're getting a little like, So like, sure. Trade at 24. I totally understand that, but do not sell everything, because while they are a very solid roster, you are correct. Like you don't need much. You still need something.
Yeah.
Like, you can't walk away with nothing. So they need to be careful of just how far back they trade. But I agree that they are in perfect position to do so because, like I was saying with like the Steelers cannot draft a tight end this year because they were set at tight ends. Yeah, you have other way bigger needs. You can't do it. I don't care if like Tyler Warren's there in the second round. Don't do it. The Vikings, on the other hand, go for it. Because, like, yeah, what else do you really need? Because their biggest needs was offensive line and bastards. They addressed that. I guess pass rush, maybe. Their pass rush isn't great, but I mean, like you said, Brian Flores is still there, shockingly. Because I thought for sure he was going to get another gig as a head coach after this year. That man can make anyone look like a star pass rusher. So that like even your biggest need is not really a pressing need. So yeah, the Vikings it's a playground for them this weekend. They can just like pretty much watch everyone else play and figure out their plan, which is it's like draft heaven basically.
Yeah, I could not imagine, Ted, if the Jaguars ended up in a situation where they had Luther Burden the third, and Brian Thomas Jr. 1 and 2 going against your Colts twice a year.
I read a mock draft yesterday that had them taking him in the second. I was like, God damn it. The Titans get Cam Ward, the Jaguars get Luther Burden. Like, I would be so. The Texans are actually good. Like, I hate my life.
Yeah.
Oh, no, but it's okay because we have Anthony Richardson.
I got Jonathan Taylor.
That was a lot of talking. I need to take a break for a couple plays. You go.
Oh gosh. Well, Tad, this is not the time to take a break because we're coming to the last segment of our today's episode here. This is draft bold prediction. So it's like, what do you think is going to be the boldest thing that happens, whether it's on the first round, whether it's just over the course of the weekend? What do you think a team does that's going to be very interesting? Like we have that very bold selection of, the Atlanta Falcons taking Michael Penix Jr., number 8 overall. So just like, what do you think is going to be your boldest prediction for the 2025 NFL draft?
So I was trying to think on this, and I'll fully admit this is not my original idea. I was on Reddit the other day, and someone posted this. I don't know why, because I'm not even part of the community, but someone posted this on Reddit, or our Lions. I'm like, why would we do this? And I kind of looked at it, I was like, you know what? This makes sense. I don't agree with where they selected, but anyway, let's keep the NFC North with the Detroit Lions.
Okay.
And a player who I've surprisingly been seeing slipping down draft boards, much like Luther Burden, and much like him because he plays the same position. Tet McMillan, for some reason, keeps like falling lower and lower in these drafts. And I have no idea why, because I have a draft crush on this guy. He is going to be a stud in the NFL. Well, I was thinking, I was like, if he starts falling, and the Lions, and we do know the Lions like moving up, moving down. Like correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they traded up for Jahmyr Gibbs.
They did.
Yes. So did they trade with the Vikings? I just now realized that. I think they traded with the Vikings to do that.
I don't remember that, but I do remember them trading up specifically.
But so we know the Lions like moving around, right? And I know what people are going to say is, why would the Lions do this? But my bold prediction is Tet McMillan falls, Lions trade up to stop that fall. So Tet McMillan,
okay,
Detroit Lion. A couple of reasons why. I know Jameson Williams is good.
Yes.
Two problems with them. One, he's more of like a stretch the field kind of guy. Like he has a big game for you here and there, but not really a true number 2 guy. Two, he's an idiot. Sorry, it's true. I mean, how many times has that dude been suspended? Like 3 times now. So you can't depend on him to like really be there for you because fool me once, fool me twice situation. So you need a more dependable and really like sizable playmaker opposite of Amon-Ra St. Brown. And you need, and this is a big reason why I think the Lions would trade up for this, is much like the Vikings, you don't really have any glaring needs, but you do have 2 huge losses from this offseason. And those losses are named Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. And you have got to make sure that neither side of the ball, falters with their absence. I have more faith in that. Believe it or not, I actually have more faith in this defense than that offense. Because I think that defense is just naturally talented. I know people are going to be like, did you see the playoffs? Okay. That was also their second straight defense because like everyone was hurt. Yeah. So I think like that was the big thing. That was the bigger thing. Their starting defense is very good. Yeah, their backups need a lot of work, but separate argument. Their offense, I'm very worried about because I don't. And you can ask me if like, does that mean you think it was all Ben Johnson? Maybe. I can't tell you for sure, but I think it's a very real possibility it was. So if you get Tet McMillan in there, you kind of put like another you plug that leak of like oh shit, like maybe our offense isn't that good. You kind of stop that from ever really becoming a thing. Plus, he's good. I love his story. You just got to surround Jared Goff with talent. Because if you're asking Jared Goff to win you a game, I still don't think you can do it. So he is going to be so good. He's the Eli. You know what he is? He is this generation's Eli Manning. Like, are you good? I can see that. Are you good? I don't know. Are you good? Like, you win. You win, but I don't know if you're good.
Yeah.
So I think, like, sure. And here's the team that I think Detroit's really keeping their eye on because it's like, we need to get ahead of those fuckers. Seattle. I think if he falls past, let's say, the Colts at 14 and he being Tet McMillan, I think that's when Detroit's getting on the phone because they're like, we got to jump these fuckers to get him because there's no way McMillan falls past Seattle.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so either. That's definitely a team that they need to sort of keep their eyes on. But so Tad, Detroit did not trade with Minnesota. So in that draft, Houston originally held this pick, but then that was part of the Deshaun Watson trade. So it went to Cleveland, and then Cleveland made this trade with Houston because that's how they selected Will Anderson at number 3 overall. And so this went to Arizona, and then Arizona traded it to Detroit. And so it was originally, it went from Houston to Cleveland.
I feel like the Charlie Day meme, like with the board.
Yeah. So it went from Houston to Arizona to Detroit. That's the transgression that sort of happened there. So yeah, they trade up with Arizona officially to acquire Jahmyr Gibbs at number 12 overall. Yeah, so not Minnesota. Tad, my bold prediction for you is actually more position related. So I think this is going to be a position that I talked about this when we were starting our draft coverage. We did our draft preview for this year's draft 1 year ago after the 2024 NFL draft. We're like, okay, what are some positions of strength? What are some positions that maybe the week? And I brought this up and it's like, I don't know if it's going to be the strongest position, but it definitely intrigues me the most. And honestly, Tad, it may be the strongest position heading into, after all this draft analysis and all this research, the running back position. And so my bold prediction for you, Tad, is that in the first 3 rounds, we will have double-digit total running backs selected.
Hold on. Yes. Got to pull up my rankings.
So after the end of day 1 and after the end of day 2, we'll have at least 10 running backs selected in that span. You definitely look at this running back class. It's headlined by the likes of Ashton Jeanty out of Boise State, Amarian Hampton out of North Carolina, and Caleb Johnson out of Iowa. Tad, the last time that we had 10 or more running backs selected in the NFL draft was the 2008 NFL draft. We had 11 running backs selected in those first 3 rounds. Tad, I have to do it to you. How many of those 11 running backs do you think you can name?
All right, 08?
08, yes.
No Sean Marino.
Not one of those picks, sorry.
What?
So I think you had the wrong draft here.
I
think Moreno was 09.
Beanie Wells?
I think the wrong draft as well.
Fuck me. Chris Johnson?
Chris Johnson is one of them, yes. 24th overall to the Tennessee Titans out of East Carolina.
Here's the background on this. We did see each other's notes. However, Amir blacked this out. So I actually knew this quiz was coming. And I absolutely thought it was the 09 draft. So I was like, oh, I got this shit. Now I am like devastated because of that. I know the 09 draft very well. 08, I don't.
Also, maybe Chris Johnson's a little bit of a domino effect. Like maybe you could start thinking along those lines. But yes, 24th overall to the Tennessee Titans out of East Carolina.
I don't know. What was that kid's name? Rashard Mendenhall.
Rashard Mendenhall, yes, 23rd overall to the Pittsburgh Steelers out of
Illinois.
Illinois, yes, correct.
I'm out.
You got okay. That's still impressive. I think
hold on. Was that Donald Brown year?
That was not the Donald Brown.
Okay, thank God.
That was not the Donald Brown. I think Donald Brown was 2010, if I remember correctly, right? I think so. Might have been 2009 as well. Maybe you're just very hung up.
God damn it, Donald.
So you got 2 out of the 11. I'll give you the rest of them here. So we had Darren McFadden, run DMC, drafted out of Arkansas, went 4th overall to the then Oakland Raiders. We had Jonathan Stewart, the Daily Show, drafted out of Oregon. He went 13th overall to the Carolina Panthers.
13th overall, Jesus.
Felix Jones, the running back, also out of Arkansas. He got drafted 22nd overall by the Dallas Cowboys. You got Rashard Mendenhall at 23 overall to the Steelers. You got Chris Johnson, 24th overall to the Tennessee Titans. So we had 3 straight running backs in that year. Let's get to the second round now. We had Matt Forte out of Tulane.
Oh, man.
Drafted by the Chicago Bears at 44th overall. Ray Rice out of Rutgers was drafted 55th overall to the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know if you remember this name. Kevin Smith out of UCF was drafted 64th overall by the Detroit Lions. That's when their drafts were not as good as they are now.
Fathead on my mini fridge in high school. You remember those? The fatheads, like the stick, like you could just. I love how they call them mini fatheads when that's just a sticker.
Yep.
But I had Kevin Smith's mini fathead on my fridge, and I had to take it off after like 3 years because he didn't do shit.
He did not do shit at all. How about this throwback name here, Tad? Jacob Hester out of LSU, drafted 69th overall by the then San Diego Chargers. Didn't actually end up playing running back. He played more fullback position.
That does not ring a bell whatsoever.
Yeah, he actually played more fullback, H-back than actual traditional running back there. You'll remember this name, Tad. Jamal Charles out of Texas went 73rd overall to the Kansas City Chiefs. And the last one, the one-hit wonder out of Houston, Steve Slayton, drafted 89th overall by the Houston Texans out of West Virginia. So those are your 11 running backs drafted in 2008. The most, but the double-digit running backs that we've had, that's the last time in 2008. So it's like, I think that we're going to replicate that this year, though.
I like that bold take. That's a good bold take. But real quick, I love sharing the story. So I didn't really get into football until around 08, 09. And so I don't know. It was when I was in college or something, like forever ago. And I don't even know if this channel is still on, but the 06 Rose Bowl was on ESPN Classic.
Ah, yeah. ESPN Classic does not exist anymore.
RIP. But I never saw that game. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll watch it. So Henry Melton, which by the way, no idea he was a college running back, which is just mind blowing. So Henry Melton kept getting carry after carry after carry for Texas. So I was like, okay. And then out of nowhere, this guy, like this backup running back, just breaks off a run for like 20 yards. I was like, who the hell is that guy? And they go, that's Jamal Charles breaking it off the 20-yard run. I was like, oh my God, he wasn't even started there. It's like, that is just ridiculous. That and that's why Jamal Charles didn't go in the first 2 rounds, is because he was a backup. But
amazing career though.
Okay, on your take, I do agree. I think we're going to see a ton go in the second round and the third round. I don't know if we're going to get up to double digits, just because I don't know if enough backs are good enough. To be frank, is like I really only see like 5 or 6 different difference makers the rookie years. And to me, you only draft a difference maker in the first 3 rounds. After that, that's when you go for the more developmental guys. So that's my only concern. So I'm looking at my top 10 rankings. You tell me, so just yes or no real quick, if you see these, these guys go in the first 3 rounds. Ashton Jeanty.
100%.
Yeah. Amarion Hampton.
100%.
Yep. Caleb Johnson.
100%.
Agreed. Ollie Gordon.
That one I'm on the fringe.
That's on that one, didn't I?
That one I'm on the, but also your top 10 was a lot different than mine.
That's also
like
fair.
if you pulled up my top 10, it's like I'd probably give you a lot more assurances that probably all 10 of those guys will go in the first 3 rounds. But Ollie Gordon, I think, could be a fringe 3rd rounder, but I'm leaning more towards the 4th round, maybe even the 5th round with him.
Rashard Smith.
I think the talent that he brings, I think he could be a 3rd rounder.
Okay. Travion Henderson.
Yes.
He's rising quick. I think he's
going to be a 2nd rounder, but there's a lot of rumors. Once again, we're talking about these draft storylines that rumors that are sort of picking up right now. A lot of people are pegging he could be a 1st rounder.
That would shock me.
It would shock me too. I'm leaning more towards the 2nd round, but yeah, that's sort of what I'm hearing and reading right now.
This is a guy who I think is going to slip, but shouldn't. Donovan Edwards.
Yeah, I think he's probably going to be a day 3 pick, to be honest with you.
Yeah. RJ Harvey.
I like his skill set, but yeah, I think more of a 4th round with him.
Okay. I don't even need to ask you about this.
Okay.
You have a man crush. Cam Scatterbo.
Cam Scatterbo, I love. Like I said, if it were up to me, he'd be a 2nd round pick, but I'm thinking based on the stock and just the way everything else is playing out, he'll probably be a 3rd round pick.
So you're really leaning on, like, it's not going to be a 2nd round rush on these backs. It's going to be a 3rd round rush on them.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I can buy more into that.
Okay.
I can definitely see that. And finally, Damian Martinez.
He's got a lot of potential too. So yeah, I think very similar to Ollie Gordon. It's going to be a fringe 3rd round, but possibly could slide into the 4th round. I think the biggest thing for me, Tad, is that I think most likely in the 1st round, we'll see 2 running backs taken. Maybe a 3rd will slip in. Like I said, we're hearing lots of rumors about Travion Henderson possibly slipping in there, or maybe it'll be somebody else. The 2nd round, I think we may see similar numbers, maybe an additional running back there. But yeah, I think 100% the bulk of these double-digit running backs that I'm predicting here with my bold prediction, they will go in the 3rd round. So it's like that's where you'll see a lot of running backs taken in that position there. So it's like, yeah. But like I said, I think with the depth, because there's a lot of great pieces that, are not going to be in the top 10, but I think a lot of teams may look at this as like, this is a good addition to our back. Like there's Byshell Tuden, who I compared to Darren Sproles coming out of Virginia Tech. There's Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee that a lot of people are comparing that's like, this is just going to be another speed demon, just like Devon Achane, who was drafted out of Tennessee by the Miami Dolphins. So like, he could be another similar running back like that. You already brought up RJ Harvey. There's Brashard Smith. There's Ollie Gordon. There's Damian Martinez. There's the guy out of Delaware that a lot of people are high on, Marcus Yarn. So it's like, there's a lot of potential. It's a very deep running back. So it's like, that's why I see that's like, there's a lot of, depending on the type of back that you need for your backfield, whether it's a change of pace guy, whether it's a power guy, whether it's like a, first 2 down guys, whether it's a pass catching back, it's like, you could find that guy. And it's like, I think they may decide to spend a quote unquote reach pick in the 3rd round to make sure they get their guy, as opposed to like, maybe he'll be there for us on day 3. Maybe he won't be. Let's just not even eliminate the guessing game. Let's just take him in the 3rd round. Maybe, like I said, maybe a little bit of a reach, but now it's like they secured the guy that can sort of fit into their system the best and fill a need for them. So that's why, like I said, I'm leaning more towards this position very much. That's why I made it my bold prediction. I think this will come through.
I'm going to, stack my extra bold prediction on your bold prediction.
Okay.
I agree that 2 running backs are going to go in the 1st round.
Okay.
Jeanty is very clearly either going to be a Raider, a Jet, or a Bear.
Yeah.
One of those 3. That's not the bold prediction.
He's a top 10 pick. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. My bold prediction is Amarion Hampton is going to be the final pick of the 1st round to the Kansas City Chiefs.
That would be very interesting. Right now, I'm seeing a lot of Amarion Hampton being mocked to the Denver Broncos right now. That's what I'm seeing.
Behind that, I think, because I've seen that as well, but I think that Sean Payton can't find. I mean, you want to talk about throwback names, Pierre Thomas, and other guys like that who are real difference makers in his offense. We're not 1st round picks. So
we're not.
And like we just touched on, this running back class, while not like very top heavy, very middle heavy. There's a lot of kind of lateral talent there. I think Sean Payton's looking at that like, why don't I just address another need at where are they, 24?
They're 20 exactly.
20. Okay. So why don't we do something at 20 and then we'll worry about running back, tomorrow.
That's fair. That's fair.
Thursday going that way for Denver.
No, I 100% agree with that. But just like I said, based on all the mock draft that I'm seeing, that's the name that I'm seeing consistently at 20 to the Denver Broncos. There's also a lot of talk that, the Dallas Cowboys are going to rectify their wrongs from last year. They're going to take the 2nd running back off the board at number 12. So it's like, there's a possibility there too.
Please take Amarion Hampton. Don't trade down for him. Just where the Cowboys are at, take Amarion Hampton because that'd be the most Cowboys thing in the world.
And 100%, if that does come true, so it's like we have Jeanty as a top 10 pick, and then we have Omari and Hampton going at number 12 to the Dallas Cowboys. I definitely agree that there will be a third running back taken in the first round. I think there's some team that's going to draft somebody in those last picks.
If Hampton goes before 20, absolutely. I agree with that.
I agree with that.
Also, just for, and this is a very good, segue into the conclusion, but for people wondering, like, well, why do you do so many episodes on the draft? And like, does the draft process really change all that much? Hell yes, it does. Because I will transport us back to January, where Ashton Jeanty to the Cowboys, done deal.
It was.
Everybody was mocking Ashton Jeanty to the Cowboys. Now, no one is.
It is very, very true.
Love draft season.
Well, I mean, you can't put it past the Cowboys to possibly trade up to get him if they wanted to do that, but that would be the thing. They'd have to trade up to get him, whereas that initially, like you said, in January, everybody just had Jeanty sliding to 12 to the Cowboys. This is like, no. He's got too much talent to not be drafted in the top 10.
Was going to be a Raider. Jeanty was going to be a Cowboy.
Yep. Insane. Man. But yeah, guys, we are at draft week. Like we talked about at the beginning of the episode, we're going to be coming up upon night 1 on Thursday. It's going to be a lot of fun. Unfortunately, guys, really hate to say it, we will not be doing a draft live stream this year. We had a little bit of scheduling conflicts between the both of us. And so, yeah, we just weren't able to sort of put it together to have a quality live stream for you guys this year. There may be, we'll obviously keep you posted in case there's something done by our good friends at LAFB Network to see whether they'll be doing something for the live stream for you guys. But yeah, unfortunately, me and Tad will not be hosting a live stream this year. But our big hope is that this is just a, hiatus year, and we'll be back with you guys next year for 2026. But yeah, that does not mean
old.
Was that
2026? Damn it, that makes me feel old.
It'll be the Arch Manning draft year, possibly. So I mean, that's pretty interesting.
It's gonna be cool.
Pretty interesting. But guys, that doesn't mean our draft coverage will stop for you guys. Tad still has a couple more draft position rankings for you guys out there to drop. And of course, we'll still be dropping our mock draft graphic for you guys. So make sure you look out for that. What do we think will sort of play out for all these 32 teams? As mentioned, all 32 teams have their first round picks. So yeah, we'll see as far as whether there's any moving or shaking. Me and Tad are allowed 3 draft trades, every year. So yeah, we'll see exactly.
That would be a hell of a mock draft, though. You get to mock 3 picks, just 3.
Yeah, exactly. 3 draft trades, that's what I meant to say. So yeah, up to 3 trades in that first round. So yeah, make sure you check out and follow us on all our social media handles. You got us on Twitter there. You got me at UpTheSide23, Tad at TadTheSide94, got the show handle at The Decide Guys, and of course on Instagram at The Decide Guys as well. That's where you see all of our position rankings. That's where you see the mock draft graphics as well. And just, best way you can sort of stay in touch with us, comment with us, let us know your thoughts and opinions as the draft is happening as well, and leading up to it as well. What do you buy about these storylines about, Shedeur Sanders going to the Steelers, and they're very much in on him. The Dallas Cowboys possibly in the running for Omari and Hampton at number 12 overall. So just like, yeah, we want to hear from you. Interact with us on all our social media handles down below. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube channel so we're always up to date with our podcast, however you digest your media. And please, I already mentioned it before, but please support our parent network at LAFB Network, because they're giving you a lot of great content when it comes to the Rams and the Chargers and their draft plans. And we're at the spring season. We talked about Colorado being ridiculous and retiring Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter's jerseys during the springtime here. Well, USC and UCLA is basically has acquired Nico Ayabalava, I believe. That's how you say his last name, if I remember correctly, right?
You're asking such the wrong guy.
I know I'm asking the wrong person, but he is pretty much a done deal for him to be the next quarterback for the UCLA Bruins. So we got you covered with all that coverage as well as the USC Trojans and everything that's happening with them. But Tad, we're during basketball season, so we're not just doing football news anymore. We got you covered with all the Clippers and Lakers playoff coverage, as well as the baseball season coverage as well, with all the Dodgers and Angels coverage as well. So we got you covered on all the sports fronts, guys. So make sure you're supporting all of them, because without them, there'd be no us. Lots of great content coming from a lot of great contributors over there. But to everybody who's already supporting our podcast by following us on social media, by interacting with us on social media, by listening to our podcast, by watching our videos, by just doing anything and everything that you can to support the podcast, we really cannot thank you enough.
And I will say this, the biggest bummer, other than not being able to enjoy the draft with our viewers and listeners with the live stream, is that I'm not going to be able to enjoy the draft with our other LAFB co-hosts, because it is so much fun. And for once, actually, I'm not going to throw any shade his way, because truly doing the draft with this guy is one of my favorite things in the world. But they're going to have great draft reactions. I'm sure we're going to be asked to come on their podcast for our draft reactions as well. So be sure to listen to the Salute to Troy podcast. I combine salute and Troy.
It's like
The
this.
Salute
It's
to
like
Troy
salute
podcast,
to Troy.
hosted by good friend of the show, Al Rowe. Great info and just great personality. And plus, we are going to get some Trojans drafted this weekend, of course. So if you want, know how their future is going to shape up in the NFL, once we know where they're going, definitely listen to that podcast. And then, of course, LA Confidential, hosted by Chauncey Talese. He's going to have some stuff to say about the draft. So be sure to check that out. Wherever you find this podcast, you can find theirs. Actually, and I don't even know if you know this, the LAFB YouTube channel just got a very nice cleanup, reorganization. So every show now has its own channel. So while you're following ours, just go ahead and hit follow on LA Confidential and the Salute to Troy podcast, because both of them are fantastic and both will have great draft related stuff coming up over the next couple of weeks. So be sure to check those out. And guys, if you want our reaction to any pick, I know we're not going to be live, but trust us, we're going to be watching the draft.
100%.
So if you want our reaction, maybe we'll hop on, post a quick video. Maybe we'll definitely send out a tweet, send out an Instagram, something like that. So be sure to hit us up. Hey, the Bears just took this guy. Should I be happy? Send us a message, or even better, mention us on Twitter. We will absolutely respond. So happy draft day, everyone. Can't wait to come back and react to all of it with all of you. And as always, please stay safe, everyone.